I'm Mayor Chris Jensen, joining you live from Noblesville, Indiana, here for another edition of Mental Health Monday, a program that my good friend Kristen Boice, the owner of Pathways to Healing and Counseling, and I started, nearly 5.5 years ago now, Kristen, which is hard to believe. I'm incredibly proud of the work that we've done here on the show and what the community has embraced along the way. And today's not going to be any different. We're going to lean in and talk about a very heavy topic today. September is Suicide Awareness Month. And we're going to talk a little bit about, we're actually going to talk a lot about suicide. And so I want to put that up front. Kristen, you can kind of back me up. And so if any folks, if this is a tough topic for you or it is triggering for you, we wanted to be very upfront with you that we are going to dive into, warning signs and what to ask and all the things around that. So, Kristen, do you want to add anything before we get started on that?
If at any time it gets to be too much, it's okay to opt out. Like it's okay to shut it down and you don't have to stay in. So just want to give all the permission slips in the world to take care of yourself.
Yep. You do what you need to do in this conversation here today, but we are also not going to shy away from it. And we're going to talk openly about it as we have done for a long time. But again, I am joined by my good friend, Kristen Boice, the owner of Pathways to Healing Counseling, who continues generously to give her time to help the community just get better and better mentally. And I appreciate it, Kristen, from the bottom of my heart, you doing this. So, but before we get started, first of all, if you have any questions or comments during the show, please feel free to chime in. We know some folks like to just say hi. You're welcome to do that too. Or if you have a question, let us know. If we can't answer it on the fly, we'll get back to you later or find some resources for you that can help answer those questions. So please, the show is about you and your journey. So feel free to chime in at any point in time. But before we do any of that, though, Kristen, we are going to reset ourselves on a Monday morning through some square breathing. I'll let you guide us through that exercise.
Thank you for joining us, for everyone that's here for this important conversation. And throughout the conversation, breathing can help reset our nervous system, keep us regulated, and be able to handle and process hard emotions and information. So just want to disclaim that today. Feel free to use it all the way throughout this episode and at home. So please, if this is the one thing you take away from today, let it be something you practice outside of here. So we're going to put our feet on the floor, kind of center ourselves in the present moment. We're going to inhale through our nose.
I'm going to sneeze. Sorry. Clear the airways. We're good to go.
Yeah, you're releasing.
Yes, nothing to see here.
So we're going to inhale for 4. We're going to hold for 4, and then we're going to slowly exhale out our mouths for 8. So let's do it together. We'll do 2 breaths. So we're going to try to get a big belly breath, which means the belly expands. Think of the belly expanding like you're blowing air into your belly. And then we're releasing all that air in your belly. So that helps people learn to kind of visualize, because it's hard at first when you're talking about filling your belly up.
We're not breathing like this. We're not breathing like this.
Well, this is how a lot of people come into counseling. Right?
No, we're going to lower that. We're going to go down here.
Around like this. So we want to, we're trying to get the body to say, you don't have to brace for the next bad thing to happen. We can come back to the present moment and breathe through it. So let's do 2 breaths, big, deep inhale. Slow exhale out your mouth like you're cooling soup. Your exhale needs to be longer than your inhale, so you get the full benefit of releasing the breath. So let's do one more big belly breath in. You're filling up your belly with air. And release. So today, if you're in traffic, if you hear hard news, if you feel anxious about anything, you have that pit in your stomach, maybe in your chest or a lump in your throat, breathe. That helps nurture that part of you that feels like scared something bad's going to happen.
Yep. I always say it seems so simple to talk about breathing, but it is actually an incredibly instantaneous relief for me every time I do it. We try to practice that with our kids, adults, if you're watching. Model this for your kids. This is hugely helpful for them to regulate themselves in those tough moments. So thank you again for leading us through that. All right, let's dive in. Again, September, is it Suicide Awareness Month, Suicide Prevention Month? I want to make sure I'm using the right term.
Both. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I wanted to make sure I was on the right path there. And again, an incredibly heavy topic, but one that I know probably every person is somewhat affected by, whether you directly in your family or in your social circle. We know it. And I was actually watching this week. There's a WTHR, a weather person in Indy that lost her husband to suicide. And she's been really, Kelly Green is her name, has been really open about honoring her husband through the work of this topic. And I just think that's incredible, that people are leaning into that and knowing that it happens. And there's a stigma around it. And we need to talk about it. We need to know what to look for. We need to know how to look for it in ourselves. We need to know how to look for it in other people. The last thing we want to do is have something bad happen and then we question it later. Which I'm sure happens all the time. So with that kind of precursor, Kristen, I'm going to let you kind of lead us on this conversation. And again, folks, feel free to chime in at any point if you have questions, comments, concerns, or just want to say hi. Please take time to do that.
Yes, thank you so much. It is a delicate subject. It's very personal. It can bring up a lot of shame and something we want to hide if we have been touched by it somehow because of the stigma. And I just want to say everyone is welcome here. And if this is bringing up hard emotions, I just want to offer all the compassion and tenderness while we walk through this very challenging topic. Let's look at statistics. So for the ages of 15 to 29. So think about that in developmental terms. Okay, there's a lot of transitions. There's a lot that goes on trying to figure out who you are, friendships, worth and value, identity. There's a lot that goes into it. That's the third highest reason due to death is suicide. So that is a leading cause, third in that age bracket. And I would say it's increasing. So that's gives you a little touch. Globally, as of 2024, 729,000 people have died by suicide. And so we want to be able to honor the magnitude of those that this touches. And I think really importantly, what I want to hopefully help everyone today walk away with is how do I identify it, like what's going on inside of me or someone else, and then what do I say? So many people don't know what to say, and that's okay. We weren't taught this. So we want to say, you know what, this is going to be kind of a way, give you some ideas on what to say, and then resources on how to help you through it. So some of the warning signs are early on is if somebody is giving away possessions, or they start saying, I'm not going to need this anymore. They start getting rid of stuff. They start donating a lot. This isn't like I'm cleaning out. This is like I'm saying goodbye. So those are big warning signs. Increased substance use. So if you see someone using more alcohol, pot, whatever substances, that pills they may be using, that you see an increase of those substances that can lead to the pain being too great. That means someone's in a lot of pain. So when you see increased substance use, there's a lot of pain underneath that needs to be tended to, that maybe they're trying to suppress or bury, or maybe they don't even know unconsciously why they're doing that. But that often is a sign. Isolation. So things that they used to do, they're not doing anymore. They're not reaching out to friends. They're not responding to calls or text messages. They don't want to go out. They're isolating themselves and kind of cutting themselves off from the world. And maybe they have increased depression. You're noticing they feel like a burden to they'll say, I feel like such a burden. I mean, I'm such a burden to other people. Those are red flags when someone says, I feel like a burden, because we all can feel like a burden, but we're looking at how much this has infiltrated their way of feeling about themselves, the shame. We call it, I don't even like the word toxic shame, but shame that says I'm worthless. Mean nothing. I have no value. I am a nobody, and the world would be a better place without me. Those are all red flags. So if we see a lot of shame, that's pretty heavy, increased substances, we can say, okay, something's going on and this person is in a great amount of pain. And we want to be able to have a conversation if we feel equipped to do that, which is what I want to do today, to really offer someone compassion without judgment. So many people feel judged and criticized that they want to hide. So a lot of hiding, we'll see some masking. Some people can mask Like everything's great, everything's fine, but meanwhile, they're really shutting down. You can feel
Because
it from different
fine stands for
feelings inside not expressed. And we
yes.
all have those. We all have moments where we feel like I'm just fine and I don't need to air my, quote unquote dirty laundry to everybody. But without connections or someone cutting off connections, that those are definitely red flags that we want to pay attention to.
Can we, and this may be a dumb question, probably not, but when you talk about those warning signs, I think that is key that we start with these warning signs conversations. Do those differentiate by generation? I'm talking about, what does warning signs maybe look like in a more senior person or a more adult or a teenager? Are they different? I mean, or some unique signs maybe across the board?
Yeah, so for if we're looking at someone in a later chapter of their life, as like I like to call it, it's a later chapter. You might see they're not eating. So they're not eating, they're not drinking, they're really not taking care of themselves, they're not getting up and showering. So that's another one where we're seeing where lack of hygiene, and this can be true for any age, but you'll see.
But they may be less accountable to the public if they're retired or not have to do some of those things. So
Yeah. And so they're not doing what they normally do. You're going to see behavior change. You're going to watch what they're saying or what they're not saying. Like, oh, we're starting to lose some functionality. We're not really taking care of ourselves. Anytime I see a client not showering or not eating or drinking or not, doing those basic functional everyday things, and you don't have to shower every day, but if their hygiene, they're not brushing their teeth, those are all red flags that we want to pay attention to. And
okay.
then in the middle generation, we're always looking for, are there changes in their behavior, like extreme changes in their behavior? Maybe they're more negative. Maybe they are, really feeling like life isn't worth living anymore. Like they might say, what's the point of being here? I always pay attention to that. When someone says, what's the point of being here? There's no point in me being here. Someone's really hurting and doesn't feel like they matter. They don't feel like no one would even care. They may not feel like they might have some more risky behaviors. So maybe they're drinking while using. Maybe they're sexually doing things, acting out because they don't really care anymore. Risky behavior means they're putting themselves in jeopardy and possibly other people, but they don't really care about themselves. So they're like, it doesn't matter, even though it's driven by pain. I want to make sure we're clear on this. It's not driven by anything but pain. I will tell you that. It's anytime there is someone is death by suicide, it is because of pain. I want to make sure we're really emphasizing that so people understand what that means on the inside. So you're trying to see other people's pain, and it can be hard if they've learned to mask really well. Maybe they've lost a job. And so we're like, okay, they randomly lost their job, not for any other reason. Performance was decreasing. Maybe they're not showing up to work, or they're coming into work at late consistently. I mean, meaning like they're showing up like 3 or 4 hours late. Their behavior, they're more withdrawn. And then in teens, we're really, really looking at online usage. I mean, this is true across the board, but we're looking at social media posts. We're looking at stories that you may not even have access to. Maybe their friends are coming to you and say, hey, we're worried about your child. We're worried something, they seem depressed. Their appearance starts changing. You'll see maybe they're not showing up at school. Maybe they're getting in trouble at school, or maybe they're hiding. They're just not themselves. But you're really looking at social media and online usage, whether that's gaming or any kind of social media platforms, because there's a lot that happens that people post that parents don't know about. And
Mhm.
that's tough because it's hard for us as parents to monitor all these platforms. But they might be
Well,
text to friends. We get this a lot. Like, I don't want to be here. And then the friend feels like, I don't know, this is heavy, right? What do I do with this? That's where the 988 number is so helpful to
yeah,
anybody that doesn't know what to do.
yeah. Well, so I'm kind of glad to ask that question because again, it does. I do think it does. I can see how warning signs would vary by generation. And I think it's just important for us to lay that all out on the table, that it can be very different by generation too. So thanks for helping clarify that a little bit. So that's an obvious segue then to what do I do? What do I do as a friend, as a father, as a whatever it looks like, whatever I need to address, whoever in my life, what does that look like? What are those action steps? What do I need to ask? What do I need to, let's transition to that a little bit, which is hard.
It's very hard. I just want to say, you're not going to do this. People are like,
Should
I don't
not be natural.
Yeah, and they don't want to say anything because they don't want to say, oh, I inserted the thought in somebody. I'm going to tell you, if you're asking out of care and concern, you're not, the thought was already there. So I need to say that, because people will be like, oh, I don't want to plant a seed. You're not planting a seed. You're doing the opposite. Research shows that. Okay, if you're care and concern about another soul that you are love and care about, you are not planting a seed. So we need to ex-nay that off the table, because that prevents people from saying anything. Secondly,
Can I ask real quick, isn't that kind of true of society as a whole, where we get this whole like, oh, I don't want to bother them, or I don't want to, if a friend is going through something, well, I just want to leave them alone, give them space. Isn't that just kind of a natural societal reaction that we have, when in fact, like, we should be doing the opposite?
Yeah, because we're so afraid of
Yeah.
upsetting or making it worse for the person, especially
Yeah.
when they're in grief. We're like, well, I don't want to upset them. Well, the person feels like they, especially after someone's died, that where did everybody go? Like, everybody kind of left, and they're left. If they don't want to talk, they can say, I don't want to talk. That's okay.
But a lot of that grief, though, it needs to be verbalized. It needs an outlet. So you're actually helping by asking.
It's probably one of the most human experiences someone needs, is to have an empathic witness. I know I've talked about this so much, because trauma lives where someone didn't have anybody to hear them. And when we walk alongside someone in their pain, we are giving the greatest gift. And it's not about us. It's about saying, I love you, I care about you, and I want to be here for you. You're not a burden. I want to hear what's going on, because we all have pain. No one gets out of this life without having pain, grief, loss, sadness, trauma in some way. I mean, we're just not going to escape it. So how do we walk alongside each other in a loving way, so we can hold space? That's the main thing I want to tell people, is if we come with judgment and criticism or trying to fix it, you're going to shut someone down immediately. So if you're like, well, you just need to brush your teeth and get out of bed and just come on, chop, chop. The person's going to be like, you're not safe. I am not opening up to you, and I'm done. They will shut down. They will move away from you. If you say something like, I love you and I really care about you, I can see that there's some pain. I'm wondering if you're in pain. Tell me about it. I really do want to know. And they'll say, well, no, you don't care. You don't care about me. And say, that makes sense. You feel that way because that shame, which says, I am not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not valuable, wants to take us down the dark pit. So when you say, I love you and I care about you, and if they kind of balk at that, I ask, do you want to kill yourself? Are you suicidal? Now they can say no. Okay. This is not like a sure way of getting a guaranteed answer. You can know you asked the question because you care and love about this person. People are so afraid of this question. And it's the most important question you can ask somebody is, do you want to kill yourself? Are you suicidal?
So you're suggesting we go straight and use the word kill, versus do you want to hurt yourself, or do you? I mean, that is what we should be doing.
Yes, straight away. Now, if they say, no, I just don't want to be here, say, well, tell me more about it. Okay, we know this language. Tell me more about it. Opens up the conversation. Okay, now if they say yes, let's say they say yes, I am now going to call 988 and we are going to talk on the phone because I need support now. Like, most people are beyond their scope of knowing what to do. So we call 988. And then we can say, 988 will walk you through what to say. They will talk.
And how amazing is that we have an instant resource in that moment to help you?
Instant, with clinicians on the other line. We didn't used to have this.
No. And that's what I'm saying. That's amazing to think that, yes, we need you to ask that question, but also society is right there now alongside you.
Yes. And let's say you can't get to the phone. Okay. You're going to keep the person talking. And this is the main thing. Now, if we need to do something where this is an immediate danger, they're in immediate danger. If they have plan, they have a plan, they have means, and they have a timeline. That's something that they need further assistance. So that would be like St. Vincent Stress Center. That would be Community North. Those are resources that are trained to deal with this 24/7, and those are available. So if they have more of a plan, means, and a timeline, you're going to want to you're going to tell this person, this is something that we need support for somebody to walk alongside. They aren't going to want to do it. They aren't going to like to do it. So I just want to say that. And it can be a tough conversation to say, this is something I care and love. I care about you so much and love you that I want you to find the healing that you deserve.
Tell me real quick, so you call 988, but what if this person does have a plan? It's more imminent. At what point does 988 guide you to call 911? Where does that threshold get met? If somebody's, because I imagine somebody it may is listening. It's like, okay, I need to have this conversation, but what if it goes this way? Not everyone's going to say, oh, good idea. Let's call 988 and have this healing process.
Like, yay. I'll just say
yes. So what, again, is there a threshold point there?
I would call 988 anyways. So whether they want to or not, you're doing it because you're advocating for the person that can't advocate for themselves. I want you to, like, if we're talking, anybody listening, you're now the advocate that they can't do. They can't do that for themselves because they feel so worthless. Okay. They feel in too much pain. So now you're doing it regardless if they want to or not. Okay. This is where you're consenting and then you're advocating. Okay. Because some people are going to go like, no, they're too much. The shame is too big. Now, if there's a weapon, they have a weapon right there. You're going to call 911 for help. Okay. And this isn't to get them in trouble. This is to keep them safe. So there's a big difference between safety for themselves. Okay. That's when you're going. Now, most people hide all this. So this is very rare. Like most people are hiding that they have these thoughts. They're hiding that they don't want to be here. So you holding a safe place and asking a direct question is the access point in which we can hopefully we've asked the question because we care about the person. That's the direct access we're looking for, that we weren't taught that was okay. Because we're so afraid of upsetting the other person when the other person is already in the low of lows of the pit of pits.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? They might not even be able to think in a logical, most people can't at that point. They're in too much pain.
Yeah, getting your hands dirty at that moment is an act of love.
It's an act of love and an act of advocacy because you love that person. Now, can you save another human? Not necessarily. Sometimes, even if you had this conversation, there's still a chance. And I know this is hard as therapists. We have this conversation a lot. Even if we have a safety plan in place, okay, which is the next step for someone going to therapy. We put a safety plan in place so they have resources to call. Like, here's who you call, 988. Here's where you can go. Here's your safe people you can be vulnerable with and share this with. Here's these coping mechanisms that you can use. Like, you can take your dog on a walk. You can pet your cat. You can play music. You can go for a walk if you're physically able. I mean, we go through a plan of here's what works for that person, doesn't work for everybody. So we come up with an individual plan for that person. And so we have a safety plan in place at that point. If they would have a thought come up, which they probably will, this is what I do. So once we can get somebody to get help, that's great. Now, back to my point. We can't always do that. I've asked the question. I've shown care and love. I've said, I love you and I'm here for you. You have done what you can in terms of safety. Then it's out of, like, you've done what you can do. Okay. This is really hard for people. And this is on the back end of counseling people. On the back end of this, they feel responsible. They didn't do enough. I should have known. I should have said this. And then that would have, I should have done X, Y, Z. Even therapists that have lost clients, it's a very hard thing on the back end of it. We all have to get our own therapy if that happens. Mm-hmm. And the person walking through if you've lost someone, death by suicide, it's important that you have your own support system. There's groups, there's therapists, There's community that have also walked through this that I highly recommend not doing that alone.
Well, that's what I kind of want to talk about for a second too. On the back end, I think suicide can be very much a taboo conversation, after the fact. And you hear like, oh, well, he passed away. And nobody wants to talk about that. Can you maybe address how, say it's already happened and maybe it happened years ago within somebody in your life, or, how would you suggest we address that or talk about it or name it, as a society now, maybe after the fact?
Here's the key piece with this. The person has to be willing and ready to do that. So the survivors on the other end have to be in a place that they can feel regulated enough. Their window of tolerance can say, I can handle it. I recommend in family systems, we're honest. And this is really hard. And I know this can trigger some feelings. I recommend being honest because they will find out. If you have little, kids, there's going to be ways to say it, and that's where a therapist can be super helpful in how to navigate these conversations. But I really believe we have to have truth in order to heal. It's an important part of what I do as a therapist, as truth is painful sometimes. It can bring up such hard, gut-wrenching feelings and heartbreak and shame and guilt and fear. And in order to heal, we have to feel all that. And we can't do that if we don't know the truth. So that's where extra help and extra therapy and groups can be helpful. So you can feel capable of saying, here's what happened, and it's no one's fault. And here's how we feel. How are you feeling? We can bring the feelings to the light, and that's how healing and transformation happens. Now, will it always be a wound? Probably. I mean, probably. This is what I tell people. It's not going to be a wand that we just wave and all of a sudden we don't have these feelings. We work through them so they're less intense.
Yeah. Well, I have found that, the truth does set you free, right? And you will find, to your point, your statistics at the very beginning, you are not alone. And I imagine when you speak your truth, others then are able to even feel comfortable and open up on that, too. And I know that's a journey for everyone individually to walk through, but I think it's important to kind of address that. And how do you move forward from that?
Yeah, I think once you feel like, okay, I can share the truth, this is where depths of healing come into play because now we can have true connection with someone else. Otherwise, if we don't say the truth, it feels very isolating and alone. And that makes this grow into a bigger pain.
Yeah. Sure. Well, I just want to say we have like 2 minutes left here, so I'm going to let you close out with anything else additional. But thank you for walking through this conversation with me. Thanks everyone who tuned in, because I know it is a very difficult thing to talk about, but it's something, again, that we are committed in doing. So some final thoughts, Kristen.
Here's what I want to say is hold tender space for all of your feelings. If you're feeling in a place where you're like, I feel hopeless, I feel like, what's the point of being here? Please reach out to 988. Please reach out to 988. There's also free resources in our community. There's several local organizations that offer free therapy. And on the, I think, City of Noblesville website, there are so many resources for our community. Please know you matter, you're loved, and that shame wants to take you down a different path. Anything is possible. Healing is possible. So sometimes we've never heard that before. We think we're damaged goods. We think we're permanent damaged goods. We're broken. And I think that's such a sham. It's such a lie that shame wants to tell us because we feel so bad about ourselves. And I just want to say you are worthy if no one else has told you, and you are worth it. And you are here for a reason to make it, to really show up as your authentic self. And if you have someone struggling in your life, have the conversation, see them, say, how are you really doing? And they say, I'm fine. No, really, I really love you and care about you. And I can see like that you haven't been yourself lately. And if they say anything, then you say, are you suicidal? Do you want to kill yourself? And then we have resources like 988. And then maybe you need your own support. So please know you don't have to walk this alone because this is heavy, this is hard, and you might not know what to say or do. Get your own support because it will make all the difference.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Kristen. That's a lot to go through, but I do appreciate us tackling these things head on. And just always appreciate your willingness to have these conversations with us. So thank you. And thanks to everyone for tuning in on the edition of Mental Health Monday. We'll look forward to being back next month with another topic, another show. But in the meantime, please be well and know that you are not alone, and 988 and others are there to support you. But thanks again, Kristen Boice.
Thank you.